it was planted in my head that I was kind of being manipulated, because that wasn't really what I thought at first. Once I heard that, it kind of switched that automatic thing inside of me where I just started looking for manipulation.
You have to pay attention with women. They will start to run a story in the background and start to create a reality of disconnection. But we just need to know this as men.
The Tony Bova Show, built by pain, designed for freedom.
Come for a walk with Tony and Sabrina. So we're gonna talk today about manipulation, and I think Sabrina has some talking points that are keyed up for us. But we were kind of talking on the way on our walk on why manipulation doesn't actually exist, or if you're experiencing manipulation right now, how do you do the things that are necessary to stop being manipulated? And I think that's a pretty huge thing for men to be able to understand, especially in relationships or in life in general. You know, what are the things that are manipulating me to do things that I feel like are outside of my control? So pretty excited to be on this walk with Sabrina and be out in nature so that we can share our experience with you so that you can live a better life, so you can live a more controlled life where you get to experience life at its fullest capacity. Sabrina, do you have a question that you wanted to start up?
Yeah,
with?
I guess, I will also say I dealt with manipulation in my own experience as well, where it was happening all the time, but it was because I was allowing it. So that's what we were really talking about, is getting to that place of how do you recognize it and you don't allow it anymore. And so let's dig into it. So my first question is, in general with relationships, when it comes to relationships and manipulation, I guess, or maybe just relationships in general, where do you feel the biggest gap is, or the missing link for man and woman to really be cohesive?
Where do I feel like the biggest gap is in
Yeah,
manipulation?
where do you see
Well, I think the biggest gap is that the misunderstanding. So there's a misunderstanding that I see the world a particular way and you see the world a particular way. So therefore it must be the same. So we have this underlying miscommunication immediately because of the media that we consume, because of the stories that other people tell us about what relationships should look like. We can go back into Disney and how the fairy tale of what a relationship should look like, and a Prince Charming should come rescue his princess. And I do think that there's components to that are actual truth, but you have to frame them correctly. So I think how we see it, the filter through it, is actually the thing that creates the biggest gap. Because if men understood that women just want to feel safe and what that actually looked like, and if women understood that men are driven and that they wanted to accomplish things and they want freedom out of their life, you could see how both of those perspectives are very different. Mm-hmm. And so if we want, I think as human beings, we all want the same thing. We want to be seen, heard, understood, and we want to be loved and we want to be cared for. But as men and women, we want different things. And oftentimes women will say, well, men just want sex, and men will just say women just want men to, pay the bills and be romantic. And I think you actually, there's a reverse mindset around that if they started to understand just like the differences in men and women, where it came, when you start to understand what actually creates safety for a woman and how she operates, and for a woman to understand that men don't want to be controlled, and how she can actually learn how to hold space for herself in that process, you actually have a lot more healthy and flourishing relationships that would be far more connected. They would be having far more sex. They would be enjoying life like we get to enjoy life, where we can be doing the stupidest things, honey. And I just we're going on a walk right now, and it's like one of my favorite things to do with you. And we can do the simplest things and enjoy each other, where most people would be bittering and fighting and frustrated. And the biggest gap is certainly like a misunderstanding.
Yeah. No, I think I understand what you're saying. For me, everything that between us, or what I know and what I've learned, is it comes down to really that, like we talk about the primal design of men and women, and it's so key. But in regards to also manipulation, when let's say a man is feeling like he's being manipulated, right? He can tell if part of the design of the feminine is to manipulate, right? So part of it is understanding that as well, right? And then if they know they're dealing with that, what's something that can help them become aware of when it's just maybe, oh, she's being feminine, or no, this is like unhealthy?
Well, I think there's some basic rules around what men have to understand about women. You know, because you are on a 28-day cycle and because every single week you could be different, there's an instability. You know, it's still consistent, but I call it consistently inconsistent. And so, like, when men start to understand, okay, she's consistently inconsistent and she operates primarily out of emotion. So her decision making is in the moment, which for a lot of men can be very frustrating. But when a man starts to see that as the gift, that she brings life, that she brings excitement, that she brings unpredictability, and that it's his job to figure out how to hold what we'll call a frame or a container around that, so that he remains grounded, so that he doesn't react to the fact that she's worried, scared, frustrated. Like, if more men understood that she's just scared and she wants to feel safe, even if it's not his responsibility to make her feel safe in that moment, even if it's impossible to make her feel safe, they would have a lot more compassion for it. And then they would be able to decide, is this the woman that I actually want to continue to do life with? Because she's showing me that she's unable to hold her own container, she's unable to hold her own space to actually operate in a relationship. Because when we talk about relationships, we often think like couples, right? We think two people becoming one. But when we start to separate it, I'm an individual and you're an individual, like, you know, we talk about, that I'm a whole person, you're a whole person, you get to make your own decisions, I get to make my own decisions, and that we complement each other and we just add value to our lives. When you start to operate out of that, what ends up happening for them is they start to separate from all these little upset, hurt things that kind of show up in relationships. Because actually the best definition of relationship is being able to grow. Like, there's growth that happens inside. So if you're not willing to grow inside the relationship, if you're not willing to, you know, own what is yours or confront what needs to be confronted, then it's only going to drive you. Like, relationships don't fix things. They only uncover things that need to be worked on. And things that, you know, if we want to be deeply connected, it's an opportunity. And when we start to see it more as an opportunity versus this thing that is supposed to fulfill me, and you start operating more out of an independence, then you can actually, that's like, it's, you know, most people operate out of fear. But oftentimes the fear that they're avoiding is the thing that needs to be confronted in order for them to get what they want. And it's such a difficult concept to understand.
It really is.
But oftentimes you create your own reality because you're afraid of something, so you avoid it. But avoiding it is actually the thing that creates it. And and that happens in like, the easiest place for that to happen is inside relationships. And so when we start to operate out of, I'm independent, you're independent, we're coming together because we add value, then you actually get to experience what being in a relationship is, where, you know, you and I, we get to laugh over things that most people would, you know, they'd be fighting over.
Yeah.
But we're joking around about it because we're being playful, and I understand things at a different level than most men do, and I get to show up that way for you, where you feel super safe, but then I also don't allow you to put that on me at the end of it. So when you are operating out of a place of a wound or a hurt or whatever it is, I don't allow you to put that on me and to have me take responsibility for it. I absolutely won't take responsibility for it.
Yeah.
And then oftentimes, you know, you'll get frustrated because I won't take responsibility for your stuff. And that is what makes you feel safe in the end. If you can get the perspective later, when you're, you know, more in your logical brain and not in your primal state, or your survival state, or your emotional state, then you can actually You know, be like, actually, you know what? That actually, I appreciate you for doing that for me, because what it did was it provided me enough space to actually reconnect with you and reconnect with myself. Because I think ultimately, the biggest part about relationships, especially for people that are growth-minded, risk takers, people that perform at a very high level, they want to have what nobody else has, which is an incredible relationship. Like, that's the path to getting an incredible relationship, is having a relationship with yourself that then transfers into your relationship with your partner.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're saying is master your own shit, basically. That way, regardless of what someone else is doing.
Well, the easiest way to not be manipulated is to simply master
Right,
yourself.
right. Because my next question would be, you know, the one word that we talk about with not being manipulated is like the trust in yourself.
Yeah, so if you can respect yourself and you can trust yourself, nobody can manipulate you.
Right, because I remember you saying it when we first met, telling you the story about me.
Well, because you thought I was manipulating you.
I was,
all
yeah.
the time.
Well,
you were convinced I was manipulating.
But that's a perfect example to also explain of when something happened in your recent relationship, let's say, if you don't figure it out or heal it or see what happened really, you just bring it into the next one, like I did with that, where I was so manipulated with my ex that I came in kind of looking for it.
Right.
You know, and then you told me eventually, I think after a while, you said something I've never heard, where it's like, you can't be manipulated if you fully trust yourself. And it just kind of like mind fucked me a little bit, because it was like, that's so true.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you take full ownership of your life, so like the things that you take, that you're in control of. So what do we call manipulation? Manipulation is having control over somebody else, right? So therefore, I'm dictating your decision-making process because somehow I've influenced you in a way that is going to dictate how you choose to make certain decisions. Well, if you take that away from somebody by simply saying, I own every decision I make, that eliminates manipulation 100%. Because if you own everything, then they can't actually they can't make you do anything that you don't want to do. And so when you start to pay attention, so like that's why, you know, this past week when I taught master's class, I gave them the 3 A's. The 3 A's are awareness, and then you have accountability, and then you have application. And so within those 3 things, just make sure this is focused. It's really critical that you become aware of it. So you actually have to pay attention. So like our subconscious is running in the background all the time. You have to become aware of the things before you can make any changes to them. But you got to be careful, because awareness is a double-edged sword. Once you become aware of something, you can't go back.
Yeah.
It's like the red car. So if you see, you know, if somebody tells you about a red car or a red Porsche or whatever it is, then all you're going to see is red cars for the rest of the day. Our subconscious is always looking for the information that we want, or has been trained in us prior. So that's why the stories from when we were younger show up so often in relationships, because that's the picture in which we saw relationships were supposed to be like when we were forming our brains. And now, as we're older, we think through a filter, that's the way that relationships are supposed to be. The way that we start breaking it down is through awareness. Then you start being held accountable. That's through, you know, actually implementing systems in your own life that are discipline oriented, that you're actually executing on, so you can crack the old story and then start to reform it. And so that's where you start to make small actions over and over again, like saying no to things you typically would say yes to, or, you know, doing actions that, you know, it's like reps in the gym. You have to, if you've never been to the gym before, you got to go start, and just driving to the parking lot is the first step. Then what you have to do is you get a mentor, like I did, or like you did. You get into a group of like-minded people, like a mastermind or a brotherhood, where you're in a community where people are holding you accountable, not like churchy accountability, but the ability to be held accountable in the same space. So you're seeing other people imitate a life that you want to be in. So you start to change your behavior because you want to be in that crowd. And if you understand as a human, subconsciously, that I won't be able to hang out with them anymore if I don't rise myself up to their standards. And so then you start to naturally fall into those standards because you're surrounding yourself with proximity. You know, we talk about you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you change your environment, that's simply going to start to change what you're aware of and what you're held accountable to. And then application, and then you start to actually apply the things that you learn consciously so that you don't have them continue to show up as fear patterns, as survival patterns, so that it continues to deteriorate your relationship.
I mean, I think you wrapped it up pretty well. Gave him a lot to kind of like swallow, so I don't think I'm going to ask any more questions on that.
Well, let's just dive back a little bit, you know, where you were talking about how you thought I was manipulative when we first started dating.
Yeah.
And how you're trying to put that on me.
Uh-huh.
And how I wouldn't let you do that.
Okay.
So, like, tell me, what were you feeling when we were in the beginning parts of our dating where you were starting to believe that I was manipulating you? Like, what were you doing where that was contributing to your manipulation?
Well, I mean, I guess I didn't trust myself to make the right decisions, yet I was allowing myself to kind of go along with some things. I couldn't tell you like the details because I just don't remember.
Or were you talking to anybody that was contributing to the influence?
Oh, yeah. I had asked a couple of friends about a situation in the beginning.
Yeah?
And I was highly influenced, and it was planted in my head that I was, you know, kind of being manipulated, because that wasn't really what I thought at first. But then I just started, once I heard that, it kind of switched that automatic thing inside of me where I just started looking for manipulation all the
So
time.
you started running a story
Yeah.
in the background. This is oftentimes, you have to pay attention with women, where they will start to run a story in the background and starts to create a reality of disconnection where they're operating out of fear. So there's no judgment towards it. But we just need to know this as men, that they all operate out of these stories. And what I did with you was pretty interesting, right? I told you I'm not sure I'm going to be able to continue.
Yep.
And then that kind of snapped you out of it.
Yep, it
Because we
did.
weren't even committed at that point.
Yep.
And at that point in time, you know, I think what you were actually realizing, it's a funny thing about manipulation. You were trying to manipulate me by telling me I was manipulative. And that,
All subconscious, by the way.
yeah, I'm not judging you, honey, you're still here.
Just making it clear.
It's just because we're experiencing what is manipulation doesn't mean you don't still get to choose in the process. Just what you do with it and how you decide to use it will change and dictate the outcomes that you actually get to experience. But, you know, you were actually trying to manipulate me even though you thought I was manipulating you. Is that hard to hear right now?
No, not really. I think
I
you
mean,
should.
we've talked about it, but
I
now
think
you're
you
doing
should
it on camera.
explain it though, because it's not easy to understand. If you know, it's not an easy
Sure.
concept.
So,
Ooh.
essentially, because you were looking for manipulation, the way that your brain was operating was trying to manipulate me in believing your story. So your story was inaccurate. You had freedom. You had the ability to. I wasn't holding you there at gunpoint.
Yeah.
I said you're welcome to come and go. You know, I didn't give you any. I didn't give you any amount of rules or regulations on what you could do or what you couldn't do. You were free to do whatever you wanted. So when you are looking for me to manipulate, what was happening was you saw something you wanted, and because you experienced what you would call manipulation in the past, you were worried that I was manipulating you, and that was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you started to manipulate or tried to manipulate me because it was going to make you feel safe. And that's why it's totally like, you see these snowmobiles right here? Look at that. I'm going wild right now. So in order for you to...
Let's pause it. Let's just wait.
These guys are wild.
We should wrap it up soon. 20 minutes.
Hey, let's just keep going here.
I'm
I think this is super.
oh,
Well,
okay, you're really feeling it.
are you not?
No, I am. I'm just like I'm saying. I'm pretty
See, guys,
good
she's
too.
being feminine right now. She's not sure what she wants to do.
Eh.
And because of that, we want to have a conversation with you and be able to, share parts of our relationship that are going to highly, highly benefit your relationship, that are going to help you become rare frickin' men that are going to have extraordinary relationships, because you understand things that very few men are willing to learn, let alone actually start to implement into their life. And I know, because you're still here at the end of this conversation, that you are one of those men. Well, we'll just throw it out there like this. We've been running a group of men for the last, several months, actually for the last year, but we've just had a new group come out called the Breakthrough Blueprint. And, I want to invite you to fill out an application at my website, tonyjbova.com, because if you are here at the end of this conversation and you want to actually implement these things into your life, I would highly recommend that you apply, see if you're a good fit to come into the program. And we don't take everybody. It's designed that way very specifically so that we have the right men in the right seats, so that we know that the integrity of the room and the seats that we have men in is very important to the value that the men that choose to be a part of this program get to experience. And so if that sounds like something that would be really beneficial for you, I highly recommend you go to my website. The link is down in the description. You can go there, check out the page. And if you want to have an extraordinary relationship where you're stopping to experience shame, frustration, criticism, or feeling like you're being manipulated, I highly, highly recommend that you go and you apply. You come check us out. We'll have a conversation and we'll see if you're a good fit. So if that's something that resonates with you, I highly recommend you do that. But other than that, Sabrina, since you're all done fighting around here.
I don't even know where we cut off to even pick up on it when we got disturbed by the snowmobiles.
Oh, see, that's what happens with feminine nature, is like something small and disruptive will totally throw them off. Where with us as men, we are focused, we are driven, we are able to continue moving forward even amongst disturbances, and that's why we're designed that way. That's why. There's a big difference, and you can actually experience it right here between her and I. She's totally wants to move on from this. I want to keep talking to you guys, but we're gonna end it right here. I hope you have a wonderful day and that you enjoyed this walk with us. Really appreciate you.